losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. Ben, it's been a long time coming where we can finally say it is fight week. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. And it's totally back on. And this is like a light fight week because we were just talking about how next week's going to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good, man. I think it was like July until mid-December of just fight after fight after fight after fight. This break was well needed because, I mean, there was just never a catch-up, right? It was like before you could even get over what happened on Saturday, it was like you're already preparing for the next weekend. But now it's like we've had, a good month to prepare for, this upcoming week of 3 fight cards headlined by 3 amazing main events, good co-main events. I think they definitely needed this.
Yeah. No, they're coming back in the correct way after a little 4-week break. And dude, I've said it before, I would love it if MMA kind of had an off season, even if it was just this past month. Like I'm totally fine with that. Even though like I guess traditionally the UFC had put on really big cards for New Year's Eve, and obviously Japan does really big cards for New Year's Eve. But man, taking a little few weeks off of the UFC just kind of makes me want it more.
Yeah, it's good, man. And back in the day, it's like, you had that one pay-per-view a month where you can get like super pumped. And don't get me wrong, like I love the fights, I love watching them, but yeah, it feels nice when you get a break and you can really like prepare yourself. Your brain and your body just wants fights, and now we're here. We do have an awesome card this coming weekend, headlined by a fight that me and you are calling for, and a lot of fans are calling for, and they made the right decision. So let's jump into that card. It's actually going to be on ABC, and the start times are a little bit different. The prelims are going to be starting at 12 noon on ESPN Plus. The main card is going to be kicking off at 3 p.m. on ABC. I guess before we talk about the fights really quick, what do you think about the UFC debuting on ABC?
I mean, I don't see how it's a bad move, right? Especially like I love that personally. You and I think both kind of enjoy the afternoon or even morning time slot. And I understand they probably had to do that I have obviously like no knowledge of NFL playoffs or anything, but I'm assuming you can correct me if I'm wrong. That time slot has to do with NFL playoffs. Like they don't want to overbook.
Yeah, they're gonna the night game of the NFL playoffs is gonna be happening at like 8 p.m. So they should be finished by the time the night game comes on. I haven't checked the schedule for this weekend yet, but I believe they are going to be going head to head with
Oh, really?
the afternoon game. I think,
Well,
but I mean, I can check that really quick.
I mean, like I said, obviously I don't follow the NFL at all, so I don't want to talk out of my ass or anything, but it feels like it's probably a pretty big day for network TV watchers anyway. Like people are going to be hunkered down to watch sports on Saturday. Um, and yeah, I mean, the UFC being back on network TV, obviously different than Fox, but the UFC being on network TV is always a big deal. I mean, that's the shit that people can get with a freaking antenna. It just, it's
You're right.
it's an even bigger audience than ESPN or obviously ESPN Plus. So I don't hate it at all, and I assume it's all strategic, based around the biggest kind of sport. Obviously like the Super Bowl is probably the biggest sporting event for like viewers in the United States, but I assume these weekends, the NFL playoffs are one of the bigger weekends as well for just overall viewership of sports.
Yeah, so they're going to be going up against the Rams Packers game, which kicks off at 4:35. I'd imagine they're going to do pretty well. Especially, like you said, it's kind of like one of those channels that you kind of flick through, right? Everybody's got ABC, you flick through, and boom, you got fights right there. You don't need like the subscription to ESPN Plus or anything, or the ESPN subscription. So, yeah, I dig it. I would assume that they're gonna be doing this more, but it's not really like a new thing, right? They've been on Fox, they've been on ESPN. Um, yeah, I like it though, man. I definitely like it, and they got a solid main event for this. Max Holloway, I think, is a guy that is he's not the most well-known guy, but I think he's well-known enough where people are going to care and are going to tune in for this fight, probably over the ESPN playoffs or the
I,
I'm sorry, the NFL playoffs. Maybe
yeah,
not
I
them.
mean,
I don't know.
I think even if you're a pretty casual MMA fan, you probably at least recognize the name Max Holloway because he's been in the big fights against like Poirier and Aldo.
Connor,
Eh, yeah.
way
So,
back one.
but even then, I mean, he's been in Connor's orbit, which it just like helps in general. But yeah, no, I think he's obviously not a huge star, and I think Calvin Kattar is for sure pretty unknown. Even I would be surprised if like a casual MMA fan knows who he is, but this is his chance to become known because I do think Holloway is like that kind of B level attraction for the UFC. No disrespect to him or anything like that, but like he's kind of he's headline pay-per-views and he's not going to do huge numbers, but he's a reliable kind of attraction for them.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and this fight is honestly freaking awesome.
So
I'm
good.
so glad they made it. I've been so just really pumped up and watching all the previews, and I've gone back and watched some of their old fights, and man, like this is one of those fights where I would be extremely surprised if it hits the ground at all. And just the chess battle that's going to happen on the feet is going to be amazing because Calvin Kattar, I think, is one of the best boxers in MMA, period. And Max Holloway is an absolute monster on the feet himself. And there was that stat floating around. It said, I believe, like Max Holloway has absorbed something like 1,000 plus significant strikes, and he's been knocked down a total of 0 times. And again, you look at the guys he's fought: Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. I don't even know if you go down the list, man. Jose Aldo twice. I mean, the guy's chin is just unreal, and Calvin Kattar has just serious power.
Yeah. I mean, I think going into the fight, like a few weeks ago when it was announced, somebody had asked me, what do you think about that fight? And in my mind, and I think probably a lot of fans, you kind of think of because Holloway lost his last two fights, and because he had that Poirier loss like 2019, so 2 years ago at this point, um, you kind of think of him on the downside of his career. But it sounds like I went back did the same thing you did and watched their recent fights, and you realize, oh, Max Holloway is still durable as hell. He's still like crazy tough. And I think the first Alexander Volkanovski fight, Holloway had a pretty off night, and Volkanovski was totally on. The second Volkanovski Holloway fight, I think Holloway, that's a much clearer depiction of kind of where they're at. And it was a super close fight. He's like one judge away from being champ again. So, I think it's easy to think of Holloway on the way down and Kattar on the way up, but I think they're both still basically in their athletic primes and still very durable. For sure, Kattar, and as well as Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Max Holloway is on the decline at all. Like you said, man, he was in the Dustin Poirier fight, and Dustin Poirier is an absolute monster.
And
The first
huge.
and huge, exactly. The
Yeah.
first the first Volkanovski fight, very close. The second Volkanovski fight, I thought Max won. So yeah, he's lost 2 of his last 3, but again, he's super durable. The adjustments he made in that second Volkanovski fight were super impressive. And the thing is, Max Holloway is still only 29 years old, right? Like he's younger than Calvin Kattar. As long as Max Holloway's been in the UFC, it's insane. I mean, he made his UFC debut all the way back in 2000, yeah, 2012 against Dustin Poirier. Long time ago. His longevity is crazy. And yeah, like I said, I think Max is still uh, in the prime of his career, if not very close to it. I still think the chin is there, the skills are there. Um, but Calvin Kattar is on the rise, man. Calvin Kattar has looked extremely good. His only recent loss was to Zabit, who did not want a 5-round fight, and I think you can kind of see why. If that fight went 2 more rounds, I think Calvin Kattar is getting his hand raised because he was coming on extremely hard in that Zabit fight, and then he follows it up with the knockout of Jeremy Stevens, and then the decision against Dan Ige. Let me ask you this, Ben. What is better for the division? A Max Holloway win or a Calvin Kattar win?
I got to go with Kattar win because if Holloway wins, we're going to get a third Volkanovski fight, which I will watch that gladly, and both of their first two fights were fun, but I'd rather somebody fresh like Calvin Kattar in there. And not that I would really want to see Max Holloway lose, but he's obviously a fresh contender. I'm sure Kattar wouldn't mind getting back a 5-rounder with Zabit, as you just mentioned. It looked like he was probably going to win that fight if it had gone 2 more rounds. So I'd like to see Kattar get a win here, and he can maybe call for a title shot, which I think would be warranted if he beats Holloway. Or maybe he wants to call for a rematch with Zabit, anything like that. I just think you're injecting fresh blood in like the top 3 of that division then. And Holloway, we just talked about, yeah, he looks small against Poirier, but Holloway still not even 30. Like, he could still go up to lightweight and have a decent career there.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Kattar injects new blood into the division, but Alexander Volkanovski's got a fight coming up with Brian Ortega 2.0, and if Max Holloway wins and then Brian Ortega wins, I definitely think it sets up probably a lucrative rematch between the two, because again, Brian Ortega looked amazing in his last fight. But the one thing in this fight that I think, and again, I guess I haven't seen enough, but we haven't seen really enough of Calvin Kattar past the 3rd round, right? He had the decision against Dan Ige, and then he had a fight all the way back in, let me see. He had one other fight on his resume that went 5. It was all the way back in.
It's probably a CES fight or something.
Yes. Let me see. Where the hell is it? Not even. It was an American Steel cage fighting against Andrew Montanez all the way back in 2009. So, yeah, he's only had one fight go the distance, whereas Max Holloway is so experienced in 5-round fights. He's done it a million times. His cardio always looks great, and he keeps a good pace throughout 5 rounds. Yeah, I guess my question is, do you feel that Calvin Kattar is going to have the cardio to push past 3 into 4 into 5 and keep up with Max Holloway's pace?
I think he does have the cardio to keep up. And his one 5-rounder in the UFC, I should say, against Dan Ige, that was a super high pace fight. Ige really pushed the pace on him, and Kattar was there till the very end. I think the issue is going to be more so that Holloway is so good in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Not that Kattar has bad cardio, or I expect Kattar to fade particularly. But as you just alluded to, Holloway has all this 5-round experience, and he's like this snowball rolling down the hill. Kattar is to a degree as well, where Kattar kind of has a tendency to start slow and pick up steam as the fight goes on. But I think Kattar is more of a guy who takes his time to see and find his openings to land offense, whereas Holloway is in round 1, he's touching you with the jab. In round 2, it's 1, 2s, and 3s. In round 3, he's laying the entire variety of his strikes on you. So they kind of approach fights in different ways. Kattar, I think, is dangerous once he can see his openings, which typically come later in the fight. But Holloway is a guy who just builds and builds and builds and builds as the fight goes on. So I guess to answer your question, I don't know if I think neither guy really has a clear cardio advantage, but I do give the fact that it's 25 minutes an advantage to Holloway, because he's a guy who is basically always going to get better the longer the fight goes on.
Over the course of 5 rounds or however long it lasts, who do you see having the advantage in the striking? Because I think that's honestly, this fight in particular is one of the fights that I'm the most intrigued by on the feet.
100%. And I don't know about you, man, but I had a blast going back and like watching their recent fights to kind of try to solve that puzzle. I think that Kattar is a guy who just totally feasts on predictability. If you are walking forward towards him in a predictable way, a la Jeremy Stevens, he's going to eventually find that opening and like take your fucking head off. Or if you're defending in a certain way, or if you're slipping in a certain way, or maybe you throw your jab the same exact way every single time, Kattar is an expert at finding those openings and exploiting them. I think the problem for him is that Holloway is a master of variety and diversity of strikes. And we saw that a little bit causing Kattar problems in the Zabit fight, right? Zabit, especially early before he got real tired, was kind of overwhelming Kattar with just a really wide variety of strikes: elbows, knees, spin kicks, front kicks, round kicks, everything. And I actually think Holloway's a little bit better and more economical than Zabit is at throwing that diversity of strikes. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but on the feet, I think the Kattar is a guy who kind of needs to find openings, and he needs his opponent to be at least to some degree predictable to really land his offense. But I think Holloway is just gonna lay on the variety. He's not gonna give Kattar those openings, at least not initially. And like I just said, the longer the fight goes on, the stronger Holloway gets. So I favor Holloway on the feet, and that's kind of my pick. Spoiler pick is I favor Holloway overall because, like you said, I don't think this fight's hitting the mat at all.
Yeah, I'm with that, and you bring up some good points. Yeah, Max Holloway is so good with angles, cutting off the cage. He's good on the back foot. He's good moving forward. He diversifies his strikes. Most lines have Max Holloway around a minus 150, 160 favorite with the comeback on Calvin Kattar at plus 130. I'm going Max Holloway as well. I just think the experience in big fights, I don't think his chin has gone away. I do not think he's on the downside. And yeah, just the 5-round experience. I think it's going to be super close early. And I think 3, 4, and 5, Max starts to pull away. And I just think, again, dude, I still think Max Holloway is the best featherweight in the world. I know he lost to Volkanovski twice. I thought he won the second fight. And I think a win here puts him right back into that title picture. We have no idea what the hell's the Beats doing. Yair Rodriguez is suspended. Those two dudes just don't want to fight each other for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, who else is next? Brian Ortega's going to fight Volkanovski. Max Holloway gets a win here. It's got to be Max, right?
Yeah, he's not going to go anywhere else unless there's some money fight waiting for him out there. It's got to be that.
Yeah, I got Max, man.
Um,
I am
I,
super pumped.
do you
Super
think
pumped.
do you think Kattar has bigger, like, kind of one punch power?
I do. And he's alluded to this as well. If you listen to him in the build up of this fight, I think he's acknowledged that Max is a great volume puncher, but Kattar has said he's a one strike finisher, and he's proven that in his career. He's got super good power. And if you watch Kattar, the way he sits down on his punches, that's the difference between a lot of guys. Whereas a lot of guys are kind of moving and they're a little bit off balance when they strike. Calvin Kattar sits down on his punches very well.
Yeah, he's a guy, like you said at the very beginning of us talking about this fight. He's one of the best boxers overall, and that comes down to just his actual punching form is better than the vast majority of guys in the UFC. And it's a sight to watch. But I also do think, getting back to the original point, like, he's so good at boxing that sometimes a diverse attack involving kicks, knees, elbows, everything can kind of fluster him. So I would guess that's what his approach will be.
I mean, if this fight wasn't already announced, set in stone, this was going to be either number 1 or number 2 on my Christmas wish list, right?
Yeah.
Going to 2021. This fight is so freaking good, man. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So if we shift gears to the co-main event, we got Carlos Conde taking on Matt Brown. I believe this is a fight that they've been trying to make since, like, I don't even know, like 2015, something like that. I believe it's fallen through like 2 or 3 times. We're now getting it in 2021. Both of these guys are at the end of their careers. You know, Carlos Conde is 36 years old. Matt Brown, I believe, just turned 40, if I'm not mistaken.
He's a man. He's 40.
He is a man. This should be a fun one, man. You know, Brown's coming off a loss to Miguel Baeza. Before that, he actually had 2 wins in a row. Carlos Condit's coming off the big win over Court McGee. It's kind of tough to pick, right? I mean, these guys are both just at the end of their careers. They've done a lot, man. You know what? I gotta say though, for as late in the tooth as they are, their chins are kind of looking decent at this point. I do lean strong either way in this one.
No. I mean, I guess, like, my initial lean is Condit, but then when you really look at their records, it's like, oh, they're both pretty old. They've been losing a lot lately. It's like, how can you have a strong opinion on this one?
I would love to see, whoever wins, I'd love to see both of these guys just kind of hang it up, I think this is a good fight for them. And again, this is not one of those like, hey, Carlos Condit gets a win. Here's Vicente Luque. Here's Stephen Thompson. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a good old guy fight, right? They've tried to make this a bunch of times. It feels good. I think they're both at the same point in their careers. I kind of favor Conde. The betting lines also favor Conde. He's at a minus 165-ish, 160, 175. Man, I would not be surprised if Matt Brown goes out there and wins. But yeah, I could only hope that the winner of this, regardless, I hope both of them kind of hang it up right off into the sunset. I hope they put up a good fight and don't take too much brain damage in this one.
Yeah, especially as you brought up, like they could get out now and neither guy is like clearly like totally like they haven't experienced those like sad KOs where you're like, oh, I don't feel comfortable watching this anymore, you know? So especially Condit, like if he left now, I mean, I'm looking down. Has he been TKO'd in his career ever?
I feel like someone put him away not too long ago, didn't they? Maybe not.
He's been
He's got subbed a couple times.
Yeah, Maya, Oliveira, and Chiesa all subbed him.
He got knocked out once.
Was it a while ago?
It's gotta be a while ago, yeah.
So if Condit retires now as clearly like a hardcore fan favorite, and who doesn't love the natural born killer, he could get out without those like really debilitating knockouts on his record. I'm sure he's suffering from his own little minor brain damage just from years and years of doing this, but yeah, it would be pleasant to see these guys kind of coast off into the sunset.
Yeah, agreed. Man, I've been saying this guy's name, you know this, for a long, long time, and I don't want to jinx it. It is still a couple days away, but hopefully this weekend we're going to finally get the return of Santiago Ponzinibbio. Man, it's been a long, long time since he's fought. His last fight was all the way back in November 2018 against Neil Magny. It's been 2 years, but man, he's got a 7-fight win streak going.
Yeah.
7 fights. But again, he's been off for 2 years, and he's not getting the softest of landings. He's fighting the Leech, Jin Lang, who is a bruiser of a fighter. Jin Lang has a great chin. He moves forward, and I mean he's done a lot of winning recently. He's lost only to Jake Matthews and Neil Magny in the UFC. No, he's got a couple other ones, but since 2016, he's only lost to Jake Matthews and Neil Magny, who are both extremely good. I don't know what to expect from Ponzinibbio. He's had a lot of injuries, but previous to the injuries, the guy is a killer on the feet. He's got great striking. And yeah, I think this is a fun style matchup. I see these guys meeting in the middle. Jin Lang is one of those guys that doesn't really ever take a step back. He is not afraid to take a couple strikes to land a couple of his own. I got to favor my man Ponzinibbio here. I think, and I hope he is going to be picking up right where he left off, because the dude was an absolute killer, and if he wins, man, that's 8 fights in a row. Again, he's got to kind of reestablish himself, but it's a long win streak.
Yeah, no, I favor Ponzinibbio as well, just based on like skill level. But we kind of mentioned this earlier a few weeks ago that the Leech is a guy who's going to test your ring rust right away.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be throwing down like immediately. He's going to be testing your timing immediately. So we'll hopefully get a pretty clear answer of where Ponzinibbio is pretty quickly. But if you look back, like Ponzinibbio's win streak feels a little dated now. But the fact that he has a 2018 win over Neil Magny is pretty big. The Mike Perry win in retrospect feels less important, but
the Gunner was very good.
Exactly. And the Gunnar Nelson win was pretty fucking big too, because in 2017, Gunnar Nelson was still a very, very hot prospect. Nordine Taleb, Zach Cummings, Court McGee in 2016. Like Ponzinibbio's win streak, like a lot of those names that I'm just naming now today in 2021 are not huge, but this was a damn good win streak. I mean, he was like 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot before this layoff.
Yeah, I believe when he got injured, he was ranked like number 7 in the world or something like that.
Yeah, and he was, let's see, according to Tapology, and at least as of December 2019, he was at one point scheduled to fight Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, he has, like you said, he has to reestablish himself, but the quality of his win streak is really, really strong, even though it feels dated, in 2021.
I have to say, though, looking at the lines, these are pretty steep lines. With Ponzinibbio, again, he's on a 7-fight win streak, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. They got Ponzinibbio as like a minus 200, even minus 280, minus 275. Some lines you can get him at minus 300. Those are pretty damn steep, man. The Leech is a stud. I would have thought they would have been pretty damn close. I'm surprised to see him that high.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't expect that either. I expected
expect that.
Ponzinibbio like minus 150, 160, something in there, like a small-ish favorite. So yeah, I mean, if you're want to take a flyer on the leech, I mean, he's a guy who will,
It's not a
like I
bad
said,
bet.
he's going to be throwing down. Like he will brawl.
It is not a bad bet. Rounding out the main card, Joaquin Buckley is back taking on Alessio Di Chirico, which should actually be a fun fight. Di Chirico is on a 3-fight losing streak, but he is a solid fighter. Buckley coming off, the obviously well-deserved unanimous KO of the year. Kind of a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I wish we got the James Krause fight, man. That one seemed like it was going to be fun, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Buckley. How he's coming along, and I mean the guy's got a wealth of talent and power, which we've seen. It's a good step up for him.
Yeah.
Or not step
And
up, but a good,
continuation.
Yeah, continuation, exactly.
I mean, Buckley I think is probably going to win here, and I would imagine he's just going to keep on calling for the James Krause fight. Like, I assume that they'll let that beef continue to build.
Yeah. Rounding out the main card, Punahili Soriano versus Dusko Terodovich. Dusko is a solid fighter. He's very good. You also got Phil Hawes on this card. Carlos Felipe, Justin Tafa, Ramzan Ameev is on this card. Pretty solid card, top to bottom.
Yeah, so, some fun fights for sure. Some decent prospect. I like both that Dusko Todorovic. I like both sides of that, and Punahele Soriano are both decent prospects, and it's interesting that the UFC is putting them against each other here. But yeah, I mean, it's like this card is good, and it's like dipping your toes in the water before shit gets real wild next week with Conor and 2 cards in like 3 days.
Yeah. Can't wait. Yeah, this is a good one that to come back on. I think we've all been itching for it, and it's a real solid one to come back for.
For sure.
Let's talk some odds and ends. Some big fights are being announced. Let's first talk about Dana White coming out and saying that he's looking to book a fight for Nate Diaz, and he's looking to book the fight at lightweight. I believe he said that this guy was an absolute stud, and a win over this man is going to do big things for Nate if he can get it. Do you have any leans on who he's talking about?
Dude, it could be all over the place, right? Like,
It could be anybody.
because I'm like, part of me is thinking, oh, it could be Justin Gaethje, right? That fits, and I think they probably want Nate Diaz like right there in the title picture immediately because of McGregor's involvement.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, it could also be like fucking Al Iaquinta for all I know. Like, none of those options would particularly surprise me.
Could be Charles Oliveira.
Yep. I think
Paul Felder.
I think it's likely going to be somebody who's very highly ranked, just so they, if he gets a win, the UFC can then put him in some sort of title fight or high level fight with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it's got to be something that interests Justin Gaethje, or I'm sorry, Nate Diaz, right? I mean, he's not going to fight like the number 18th ranked lightweight. It's going to be somebody big. I would lean. I think Justin Gaethje would be super fun, and I think that's a fight that Nate probably sees himself doing well in. I think Charles Oliveira could also be fun, and I think Nate Diaz would do really well in that fight as well. Shit, man, we've been saying it. It could even be Tony Ferguson. Tony's coming off 2 losses. I still think that would be a big fight, and I think that would be one that would interest Nate. Yeah, but like you said, I think it could be anybody, and especially with Conor. Could you imagine Nate comes back, gets a random win, Conor wins next weekend, and they're like, "Hey, Nate versus Conor for the lightweight title."
I mean, dude, if I'm totally honest, I think Ferguson is honestly pretty likely because the UFC probably thinks Nate can beat him, and I don't know if that might be likely. And they want Nate to be coming off a win so that he can hopefully fight Conor McGregor, who is hopefully also coming off a win. Not that I want to draw up some wild UFC conspiracy to get Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz in a lightweight title fight, but if I were the UFC, that's the 2 guys I want to fight for a lightweight title fight here. Like 4th of July weekend, break some pay-per-view records for them. That'd be great.
I mean, you know that obviously Dana White wants the Khabib versus Conor rematch, but if he can't get that, what's number 2? Conor versus Nate 3 for a title. Absolutely wants that.
And yeah, And I also think that's super obvious, the fact that he's announced that Nate's coming back at lightweight, because Nate doesn't seem like a guy who wants to cut weight.
No.
And he's up. I thought he even looked pretty fucking big as a welterweight recently. So he's gonna have to size down a fair amount. But the fact that he's willing to do that leads me to believe that they're saying, hey, if you win this fight, you got a money fight with McGregor up.
I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit next week, but I think the blatant disrespect for Dustin Poirier from the UFC machine and Dana White going into this fight is ridiculous. I mean, Dana White has literally given Dustin Poirier little to no credit. It's all about Conor this, Conor that. Yeah, I want the Khabib fight. Conor looks great. It's like, dude, like, what are we doing here? I mean, Dustin Poirier is a fucking dog, man. And again, we'll talk about this next week. I'm super excited for that fight, but I wish they give Dustin Poirier a little bit more respect. But I think Dustin likes that underdog role, man.
Man, if I don't want to go too far into it, but if I were the UFC and Poirier beats McGregor, then I want to set Nate Diaz up to lose. I put Nate Diaz in there against Charles Oliveira. I think Oliveira beats the piss out of Nate Diaz.
That's a tough one, man. I'm not saying that.
And then you got two guys, and then you have both Conor and Diaz coming off losses, and then they can fight each other. Yeah. Or if Conor wins this weekend, then you give Diaz a much more winnable fight, in my opinion, like Tony Ferguson, and then you could have them both coming off wins. But that might be a little bit too forward thinking for the UFC, if I'm totally honest.
We shall see. All right, a couple other ones that were announced. They've rebooked for the third time Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev. It looks like they're doing it March 13th. And again, man, it's getting a little bit ridiculous for Leon Edwards. If for whatever reason this doesn't come through, like, you have to move on. Here's the thing with Leon Edwards, right? He is ranked number 3 in the division. He's got 8 straight wins, right? Like, you can put him with Stephen Thompson, which would make a ton of sense. Khamzat Chimaev, you can put against literally anyone in that division. He hasn't fought anybody. He's fought not one person in the top 15 of either division he competes at, right? There are so many options. I get, like, you want the Leon Edwards Khamzat Chimaev fight, but man, if it doesn't work this time, you have to move on, I think. Because I would have liked to see Leon Edwards fight a Neil Magny on this card coming up, or Michael Chiesa or something like that. Like, get the guy a fight, man.
Absolutely agree. And the flip side is that time is ticking for Chimaev as well. He's a hotter prospect, and he's fought more recently than Leon Edwards. But I feel like if they want to build Chimaev like they are trying to, which is like straight to the fucking top right away, he's got to fight soon too. So yeah, I'm with that. If this fight falls through for a third time, like, just slot in somebody else. Like any of those names you mentioned. Stephen Thompson against Leon Edwards, I think, is a phenomenal fight. Which makes all the sense in the world.
All the sense in the world. They are rumoring that they want to do Zhang Weili versus either Rose Namajunas or Carla Esparza in Asia. The Carla Esparza one is kind of out of left field. I get she's won a couple in a row, but I mean, Rose should be the fight, right? I'd even rather see a Joanna rematch over Carla Esparza.
Same.
And again, it seems like they're playing. I don't know what it is. It seems like they're kind of playing tag. Like, Rose doesn't want the fight, and Rose's camp is saying, "What the hell? Speak to us. We want the fight." I'm hoping they get that one signed.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the UFC kind of trashing Rose Namajunas in the media, but
It's weird.
I would imagine that she's either saying this date doesn't work or whatever. They're trying to push her around. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, in my mind, she's the clear number 1 contender in that division.
Absolutely.
And that's the fight that really, really gets me going is I mean, the Joanna rematch as well, because it was the fucking fight of the year last year, but I would love to see Rose in there with Zhang Weili.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, that one makes too much sense, and it's a hell of a goddamn fight too.
Yeah, perfect.
Diego Sanchez. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, that's it.
I was just say Diego Sanchez, for whatever it's worth, put out a tweet saying that he's going to cause only one more nightmare. It is time to retire. Thankfully, I want them to do Diego Sanchez a solid and give him a fight that is not going to cause him any more brain damage. I mean, Diego he's not looked good recently. He's got the weird training situation with Joshua Fabia. I'm going to throw one out here. How about we run it back all the way from 2005 or 2006? My man wants a fight. How about we do Nick Diaz versus Diego Sanchez rematch. Nick wants the fight coming back. You have no idea what Nick's going to look like. I mean, that fight would sell, right? I think that would be a good reopener for Nick. And for Diego, who knows what the hell Nick's going to look like.
Man, out of left field. I fucking love it. That makes sense. And
It does make sense.
honestly, I totally forgot. What was it, like 2 or 3 months ago that we saw a picture of Nick Diaz looking fit and trim, and we are like, oh,
He's been
he's gonna
looking
make a
good.
comeback. I fucking love that. I'm like looking right now, and I'm looking down Diego Sanchez's like record from like 2006, 7, and 8 to see if any of these guys are still around and would want to like rematch him. Um, Fucking Clay Guida,
Like, Guida's got a fight coming up too. Talk about
probably.
longevity, man. Jesus.
But oh dude, yeah, a Nick Diaz Diego Sanchez fight makes a lot of
Ton of
sense,
sense.
especially because like, I mean, you said reopening for Nick Diaz, but I think Nick Diaz maybe has 1 or 2 fights left in him as well. So it would be more of like a going off, into the sunset for Nick Diaz if he wins, um, and that would be, I can't even begin to fathom the trash talk there,
Yeah,
like
it'd be great.
because Diego Sanchez is totally off his fucking rocker now, and I mean Nick Diaz always has been.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. I mean, Nick's manager said there's a 99% chance that Nick is going to fight in 2021. Again, take that for a grain of salt, especially with the Diaz brothers. We've been hearing Nick coming back for years now. But this should be a soft landing for him. I think they should really think about making this one.
Just one more nightmare for Diego Sanchez.
Yeah,
Sounds
right.
great.
That's literally verbatim what he said.
I heard. Does he have a? Let me Google it. I heard that Diego Sanchez now has an OnlyFans page.
No, he does not.
It doesn't have to be sexual as far as, yeah.
No. What's he like playing
Dude,
touch ball in his garage with Joshua
I
Fabia?
just fucking Googled it. OnlyFans.com/Diego Sanchez. Oh fuck. I was gonna read you the. You ready for this?
What did you
Uncover
charge per month?
uncover the mystery. Oh fuck, there's a free subscription option. Uncover the
All right.
mystery of living legend Diego Sanchez. Unlock exclusive behind the scenes information about my UFC career, the guidance I've received through the school of self-awareness, and my journey to personal growth. There's an option to follow for free, so I feel like I might have to.
Your first OnlyFans subscription to
My
Diego
only,
Sanchez.
hopefully my only OnlyFans subscription. But if
Right.
it's free.
Oh man, fucking
Yeah.
Diego. I mean, say what you want about Diego, but man, that guy has put in work in his career. He's been around forever.
Yeah. I want to write that guy's biography. I want to just interview that guy for like a few hours, see where it takes me.
Jesus. Don't say anything bad about Joshua Fabia because you're gonna get hung up on.
I mean, go down that rabbit hole.
Um, one big fight that was announced that I am super pumped about: Jairzinho Rosenstrike taking on Cyril Gane on March 13th. That is a banger, a big step up for Gane. I'm super pumped about that one, man. I think I've been super high on Gane. I think he's one of the best heavyweight prospects in the sport right now, and he's getting a really tough test against Jairzinho Rosenstrike.
He is, but I kind of feel like Cyril Gane is a kind of a stylistic matchup
Yeah,
or nightmare for Rosenstrike because he's
I agree.
I think, probably a better kickboxer, and there's not that many of those in the heavyweight division. So yeah, it's onward and upward. I mean, Gane is kind of setting himself up to be a potential fighter of the year if he beats Rosenstrike and then is like 1 or 2 fights away from a title fight.
I mean, if he goes out there, and this is super hypothetical, he goes out there and starches Rosenstrike and Ngannou gets by Stipe. Again, you got John Jones in there. We don't know what John Jones is going to do and who he's going to fight. But could you imagine a late 2020, what did we end, 2021 fight with Gane and Ngannou? That's like
Yeah.
two fucking mega powers colliding.
Yeah, I'm all about it. And honestly, if I'm John Jones and Cyril Gane looks fucking phenomenal, I would be rethinking my heavyweight aspirations here. But he's probably already thought all that shit through, seeing Francis Ngannou starch like 4 people in a row in 30 seconds.
Um, a couple other things we should talk about. I was a little bit hesitant on speaking about this. I know you don't mind, so we're gonna go for it. Pat Miletich announced on his Instagram that he was released by the LFA. You know, he's been a long-time LFA announcer. He's a long-time, uh, you know, figure in the MMA community. He's a champion, but he was at the riots at the Capitol, and he was released. What are your thoughts on Pat Miletich being released, and whatever else you think about that?
I mean, I got no problem with it. I understand people might kind of think, oh, this is like cancel culture gone too far or something like that. But here's the thing. The First Amendment only applies to the government. They're not like the LFA is a private company. They can do whatever they want. Um, and for the vast majority of people, I think those riots and like quite honestly, like the insurrection, people trying to take over the fucking Capitol, people don't want to be associated with that. And the fact that Miletich, there's a level to, you can support those things and espouse them on your social media. Physically going there, and there were pictures of Pat Miletich with guys doing like the white power kind of hand side things like that. I think at that point the LFA is like completely within its rights to cut ties. I mean, they have advertisers they need to answer to. They have all kinds of people they need to answer to that might say, hey, this is your front man for your organization, and he's associated with this like activity that we really, really, really don't want to be associated with. So, I guess I understand Pat Miletich is like free to do whatever he wants, but so is the LFA. And if they don't want to be associated with that behavior, that's more power to them. Like it's not going to change how I view the LFA, even if they had kept him. And like, obviously I think like storming the Capitol, and for the most part, my personal views are that those people are kind of have abhorrent political views, but like LFA can do what the fuck they want. And if Pat Miletich embarrassed them, then more power to them.
Yeah, I'm with that too. I think it's just a bad look. Like you said, man, Pat Miletich can do whatever he wants and can have a view on whatever he wants. But when you're kind of sort of like the face of a company, I guess not really the face, but you're a prominent figure in the company. Yeah, you might not want to be doing that. Maybe if you're with the UFC and you want to do that, I think Dana White would maybe toss you a little bit of a bone. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
legit.
got no problem with the LFA letting him go, man. If you don't want your brand um, associated with that, right? Like, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think you run the risk at some level. The longer you kind of keep him on staff, you run the risk that advertisers are going to say, "Hey, we don't want to advertise
True.
if this is the guy we're associated with." And that's not just me saying, "Oh, Pat Miletich is awful. He should have done this." Yada yada yada. The truth is that advertisers have already started pulling associations with people that were associated with that. So it's not like super far-fetched to say that the LFA would suffer some sort of financial repercussions if they kept employing him. But like, yeah, the key here is that he actually went, because it's been no secret that Pat Miletich is like a far right kind of QAnon type of, he's like in that realm. But if he had just not went to the Capitol protests, then I think it's a different story.
Yeah.
Where they're embarrassed by him, but probably not firing him.
Probably not firing him. Yeah, I agree. Hey, dude, one thing we forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, they're gonna have fans at these events, these next three
Yeah,
events.
like 2,000 or something. It's like limited, but
Limited, yeah. I didn't hear the number, but 2,000 sounds about right. And it's gonna be cool seeing fans back. I think we kind of got used to the no fans, and I kind of like it. But again, like going back and watching some of these fights leading up to the events coming up, man, like I miss the fans. And again, like I'm a big NFL fan. Like watching the playoffs without fans, like it's not the same. I miss the fans. And again, you're not going to get like a fully packed like I don't know 50,000 or whatever they usually pack into these arenas. But I think if they do this smart, right? And again, from what I've heard, they are requiring all fans to produce a negative COVID test within 48 hours of the event. So that's great, right? That's smart. That's great. And I think if they do this and they succeed, I think we can start opening the door, especially with the vaccine rolling out in all these countries and in America. If they do this smart, I think we can start getting some fans back in there. So I think this is a good first step in the right direction, hoping that it all goes smoothly.
yeah, man, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, I think. With the vaccine rolling out, with people kind of getting a handle on restrictions and how to do things safely, I think we're starting to see, like I said, the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the good part is with like 2,000 fans, probably no woos, probably very little boos. Like, could you imagine being one of 2,000 fans seeing these fucking fights and booing, being like,
I know,
oh,
right?
this isn't fucking good enough. So hopefully it's like super grateful fans, like fucking Japanese style fans, like people
Yeah,
that are
right.
just quiet and just
Respectful.
applaud when things happen. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. And again, like especially for a Conor McGregor fight, like I can imagine an empty arena Conor McGregor fight. And again, it's not going to be a sellout crowd, but 2,000 fans or however many fans they allow in there.
I think it'll be enough. I
Yeah.
mean, Bellator put on a show with fewer. I want to say it was only like 500 fans or something in Europe, late last year. And those fans were like fucking rabid, you know? So I think it'll be fun.
Well, even
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say even some like the NFL games have like between like 2,000 and like 6,000 fans, and I think those fans are really into it and appreciative, and they're going nuts and making some noise, and yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I don't got anything else, man. I think we got it all covered.
I think that's it. Huge week next week.
Huge week. And again, remember this weekend the fights are on ABC, prelims on ESPN starting at 12 noon. The main card kicks off on ABC at 3 p.m. Excellent main event. We always appreciate you guys listening. Remember, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We're producing a lot of We're producing a lot of content. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you can find us. We appreciate the support. Enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain.